All right, what's good, everyone? This is Keith. This is the first episode of The Locker Room. It's a podcast that me and my boys are starting, just shooting the shit, talking basketball, whether it's from the 80s and 90s, 2000s, current. We're covering all topics. We're covering all debates. We're settling debates with the five of us. These dudes are people that I play ball with all the time. I play ball with. I talk basketball. They know their stuff. I know my stuff. And we have really, really, really good debates. And we figure, why not share with everybody? So, first topic that we have today, who would you guys choose? I know the NBA season is done for this year. But before the season locked out, we had two front runners for MVP. I mean, it was clear. I mean, you could argue other people, but the top two you had LeBron and you had Giannis. So I'm gonna start with Kyle. Who do you have as MVP before the season ended?
Before that, I would say my vote would have gone to LeBron. Mine was LeBron. It was hard because it was. I mean, I was swayed, but like it was. I had almost like the Derrick Rose effect going on, where at first I was like, well, I have to give it to Giannis because the Bucks were just, destroying the league at one point in time. So they still they had the best record in the league. So I was thinking they're going to give it to Giannis, like almost solely off of that. But the way LeBron rallied his troops back up and also still had a spectacular season. I was saying that if he actually led the league and continued to lead the league, because LeBron doesn't lead the league much sometimes. So it's to see him lead the league and in assists and still have his team successful. I would give it to LeBron James.
Okay. All right. Steve, who you have?
I agree. For the simple fact that I felt, to counter what Kyle was saying, the key word he used was he had to rally the troops, which meant he wasn't doing it consistently, which means all season long you weren't playing at a certain level. And then you stepped it up on the back end before the lockout. And then, because a lot of times as a fan, when just the eye test, you say to yourself, oh man, this guy's playing good. And he plays 5 or weeks straight. And we're like, oh my God, Bron. But that's the last thing you see. So that's the last thing you remember. I'm the type of person, I'm going to go back because stats doesn't show you everything, but it does tell some of the story. But I actually watched a lot of these games in Greek. He did this thing consistently. I'm not going to say that it's easy to get an assist, but that's half the job. The other person still has to make that shot. So, which means that Bron has a better supporting cast to me than Greek does. Now, I will say Greek has a better bench. What I mean by supporting cast, you got somebody like Pope and Kuzma who could put up 40 or 50 points on any given night. Rather, as opposed to Greek, you ain't getting that from Middleton on any given night. You're going to have it on one good night. That may not happen for another rare blue moon. You know what I'm saying? And then you also have where Giannis played less minutes and produced more than Bron did. Bron played 5 more minutes than Giannis did. So basically he did more, as Aaron would say, per, attempt to touch. And Giannis doesn't bring the ball up. He doesn't even touch the ball. Somebody has to give him the ball. He's part of an offense that's around. It's not solely on him as opposed to Bron. Everything runs to Bron. And Bron has a better guy named AD than anybody that, Greek has. And Bron's not even the best scorer on his team. AD is. But that doesn't say that Bron he's not great and he's not the MVP. But I'm just saying, in terms of minutes per touch, supporting cast, how long Giannis been doing it for so long. He didn't have to rally the troops up. And here's another key fun fact that most people don't know. People say that Giannis was injured. I don't know if most people don't know. Bron only played 3 more games than Giannis throughout the season because Bron missed games too. So if anybody wants to say, oh, Giannis was injured of half the season or this amount of season, well, we could say the same thing about Braun because Giannis only missed 3 games less than him, and that's my vote.
That's a lot of good points. That's a lot of good points. Aaron, who you have?
So I gotta agree with Steve. I got Giannis. And this is for my reason. Funny he mentioned the PR. That's like one of my favorite things. So I'm gonna just break it quick. Um, for those who like don't know, like PR is a stat that tries to encompass everything with offense and defense to effectively evaluate a player's level of play. Um, around average league player is 15 overall, and then it goes by about increments of 5, like 20s, like the base of an all-star. 25 is like MVP conversation. 30 is like an all-time great season. And so in between that 25 and 30, like 27 and a half, is like playing at a Hall of Fame level. So with that being said, Giannis's PER for the season so far is 31.63. That's tied for the 5th highest PER season in NBA history. In fact, if he doesn't win MVP this year, it will be the highest PER someone has had for a single season and not won the MVP. To add to that, when we're talking about like 30 is like an all-time great season, going back to 85, because we just, I measured things in Mike years, like before Mike, after Mike, like
BC, BC, and all that.
yeah.
AM.
For real.
right. AM, PM.
For real. It's like since the 85 season, it's only been 7 times a player's had a PER of 30 or above and not won the MVP. So when you think about that, it's pretty rare. The only other time that there's been another time where a player has had 30 and not won, but that was when AD and Harden had it, and Giannis also had a PER above 30 that was higher than theirs, so he got it. So I don't, I don't count that one. Just to wrap it up, there's only been 3 times a player with the PER outside of the top 5 for that season has won MVP. That's been Derrick Rose, where a lot of people think Bron should have won it, and Steve Nash both times, where a lot of people basically feel Kobe should have got at least one of those. Lastly, Bron is outside of the top 5 in PER this year. He actually doesn't even lead the Lakers in PER, which for me isn't a big deal, but the question is, you know what I'm saying, like, who do I think is going to get the MVP or who I would give it to? I just don't think he's going to get it because we've seen people count the presence of another superstar against somebody in the voting, even though I'm not a fan of that. So those are my reasons why I think, Giannis end up with MVP.
Okay, that PER is real, and there's a lot of players who, like you said, if it's 30 or higher, you're almost guaranteed you're playing at damn near a Hall of Fame level. So it's very seldom that you'll see someone like that and not win it. So that's a very valid point. And just to round it out, Matt, who do you have?
Y'all can hear me, right?
Yeah,
you good.
All right. I'm gonna go with Giannis too. You guys hit a bunch of points. I'll write down what y'all said, of course, later. But the main reason I'm going for Giannis is because he continues to get better every year, man. Like what he's doing, what he did last year was impressive, and we were like, wow, this is crazy. He was like, 27, 12 with like almost 6 assists a game. This year he brought that up to like 30 and 13. Like, you have to reward him. Number 1 in the East, and the discrepancy between the East and the West this season is not that much as it has been in the past seasons. So the East is is tough. They have a lot of tough teams in the East, as they do out West as well. Um, his supporting cast, to me, that's the biggest thing. Like Giannis supporting cast compared to LeBron supporting cast. Um, I think somebody just mentioned either Keith or Aaron. When it's to me, I look at the supporting cast a lot, and if you go back in history, a lot of teams that have two top five players, that you're not winning MVP if you have two top five players on your team, bro. Like it just almost never happens. Anthony Davis is the top five player. LeBron James is the top five player. So Steph and KD, when they were on the same team, neither one of them were winning MVP or like in those conversations necessarily. You know, Kobe and Shaq. Shaq got it the first year in LA. Kobe only averaged like 21 that year. The following year, Kobe averaged 28. Shaq averaged 28. Neither one of them won MVP while they were on the same team because of that. So we have to grade LeBron on that same scale. Anthony Davis leads that team in scoring, rebounding, steals, blocks, field goal percentage, player efficiency rating, defensive win shares. He's up for defensive player of the year. He doesn't get enough credit. Like they do a good duo. They're very good. Lakers, that team in the West, but that supporting cast, and I don't think much of Chris Middleton. To be honest, I know he's an all-star, pretty good player, but like second best player in the championship team, he's not cutting it for me, bro. So for Giannis to be doing what he's doing and have that team where they at with a bunch of guys who borderline all-stars, you could say, Eric Bledsoe, Chris Middleton, like AD is top five players, like top five, top seven, wherever you put him personally, but yeah, that's the main reason I gotta go Giannis. Yeah, that's my take on it. LeBron's having a great season though, like leading the league in assists. That's impressive because he's in his 17th season. Like that's tough. I'm not gonna lie, that's tough, and he's still putting up like 25, very efficient, about 49, 50% from the field. That's very tough. But what Giannis is doing, and I don't know how you're supposed to stop Giannis either. So that's my take on that.
Okay. So, yeah, you kind of touched on it a little bit. I want to ask you guys, does the fact that LeBron's in the West and Giannis in the East play into your decision at all? Because historically, and even still, even though it might not be as strong as it was before, the West is tougher to play in.
Like what Matt said, it's a little bit more balanced. It's not showing right now because you got players like Kyrie and KD who's not even playing. They're injured. You got some players who left from the East that went West. So just the fact that KD came to the East, I think that does balance it out. But here's the number one key thing to me. Milwaukee, there's a big gap between them and everybody else. Yeah. In the past, we've seen teams that's they're like maybe 5 games above the second place team, and then you kind of say to yourself like, yeah, they're all, that's the East. The East is weak. The East is weak. But Milwaukee is scraping teams by plus 15, 20 points a game. Anybody in the East, and then you got players in the West, they doing it to them too, like in some of the games. So it's not like just because they're in the East, like do we say we can use that measuring stick if let's say they play teams in the West and they struggled, but barely got the win. No, I was watching them beat some of these Western teams with by like 15 points on some games. In some games, they lost and some, because like you said, yes, West is tougher, but they still was beating these teams by a good margin of points like they doing the teams in the West. And some of these teams are supposed to be good. I think Matt said it before. They can't stop Giannis. It's like he improvises when he plays a different team and he brings it to a different level. And I think the difference between, to touch on what Matt said too, he's making everybody accountable from last year because he's getting better himself. So that's part of getting that vet status of being at a certain point, knowing what you need to do to get over that hump. And I think he's teaching his team to do that, which is why they have the record they have, and which is also why I gave him the MVP nod.
Yeah, I mean, looking at their record before they went into the pandemic shut stuff down, they were 53-12, and on pace to 68, 69 wins possibly.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know. I would give it to Giannis as well, just because, like you said, he's doing it more or less on his own. To average 30, grab 12, 13 rebounds a game. You got a couple of blocks in there, and you're not even the person controlling the ball most of the time. You have a point guard in Eric Bledsoe who's bringing the ball up, who's setting up the offense, and you're scoring within the offense. You're not dominating the ball the way LeBron is, and that's no disrespect to him, because that's just how crazy he is. That he can play all 5 positions basically if he wanted to. But I think this year that I would give it to Giannis because of everything that he's doing. The only other All-Star is Chris Middleton, and he's not guaranteed, like Steve said earlier, he's not guaranteed to go off like that any given night. Maybe like once in a while, but not, it's not a foregone conclusion that he's giving you 20, 25, 30 points like every night. So, and plus most of his game is from setup as well. So you're sharing your possessions with Chris Middleton. He's spot up. They have plays that run for him. They have plays that run for Giannis. It's not like Giannis is setting him up or he's setting Giannis up. Eric Bledsoe is setting both of them up separately, and Giannis is still doing what he's doing. LeBron is holding the ball, giving Anthony Davis green light to go do whatever he wants, but he's the one that's setting him up. That's most likely why his assist numbers look the way they do. But yeah, I'm gonna go for Giannis. Kyle, you're the only one that went for LeBron, man. So you gotta defend your boy.
I mean, for me, it seems like number one. I don't necessarily agree with him being set up all the time, because of the fact that Eric Bledsoe is the 3rd on the team in usage rating, which just means either the play either ends in a shot, steal, turnover, whatever, shot or a make or whatever. Giannis is at 30-something. I think it's 34, I think it is. And Chris Middleton's at like 27. So it seems like, I mean, if you look at those numbers, it seems like Giannis is setting up Chris Middleton. And that Chris Middleton also is getting more so the result of Eric Bledsoe than Giannis. Now, because I'm pretty sure Giannis he improved his assist numbers this year too.
I'm sorry, real quick, Kyle. I'm just curious. Are you counting the fast break versus the half court offense being set? Because they run a lot of fast break. I was just trying to figure out which end of it are you speaking on?
No, I'm saying just in general. Also, said based off the numbers. So the number of usage rating it's about, it controls everything. So whether it be a fast break or half court, I'm just saying from what I remember seeing is that there are times where Giannis, he'll bring the ball up and then he'll initiate the offense, but it won't be like him necessarily setting up everything per se, like a Chris Paul who's bringing the ball up, pounding the rock in, or like LeBron James. I'm just saying based off of what I've seen, because like I said, my initial vote would be for Giannis off the sole fact that the team is playing so well and Giannis is dominating at the same time. And it's also, I can make the argument. The reason why you can make the argument for LeBron is they're only like 3 games apart, or 4 games apart, and as far as their wins go. So it's like they're number one in the West, and number 1 in the East. So it's like, yeah, of course, and either that or you could give it to AD. But me personally, the reason why I would give it to LeBron is because he's actually leading the league in something. I'm not saying that Giannis isn't, but LeBron James has a tendency to never lead the league in anything. And the fact that he's doing it in the 17th season, as well as creating this and also bringing the team up to the number 1 seed in the West, shows a great improvement as well as from the team perspective.
Okay.
I could say something to East versus West thing. Huh?
What you say?
I could say something to the East versus West thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we all know there's 30 teams in the league, right? And I don't know why people always kind of try to separate it. Like Eastern Conference teams don't play Western Conference teams. Like in fact, you play each Western Conference team twice. So that's 30 Western Conference games the Eastern Conference team got to play. That's not a small number of games. You know what I'm saying? So like I think when people do that whole East-West comparison, it's kind of just it's a little overboard for me because people be acting like, you know what I'm saying, like the East don't catch no wreck at all out West, and they do. That's all.
I think that they really do that East-West comparison because of how dominant the West was, and because Western Conference teams would play each other 3 to 4 times each for each team. You know, whereas in the East you're only playing the East twice, like you said.
Well,
So like
understood, yeah,
LeBron
but
would have
it's still 30 games.
So like LeBron would have to see like a Luka Doncic or the Clippers or the Nuggets and whoever else in the top like 4 times, whereas Giannis is going to see them twice.
Understood, but what I'm saying is that when you play, okay, so when you account for the fact that if you're an Eastern Conference team, you play 30 times against Western Conference teams. When your team is winning 60-something games, that means you had to beat those Western Conference teams. Because even if you went undefeated in the East, that's only 52 wins, like 52-0. So those wins, you know what I'm saying, and no one does that. No one just only beats Eastern Conference teams. Like those wins also comprise of wins against tougher competition. So like, you know what I'm saying? I think people just got to take that into account. Even though I do agree, I just think that it's a little blown out of proportion.
I agree.
Nah, but think about it. Think about it like this, Aaron. You got to support what you're saying. They only lost 12 times. You understand what I'm saying? Now, if we really wanted to dig in, we can always find out who their 12 losses was. It was only 12 times. So you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Even if they lost most of their games against the West, you could dig in deeper. How much did they lose by? Did Giannis play? Did Middleton play? Because Middleton missed a couple of games too. So like all of that plays a role. We could all put that all in there and say, well, now what? Whenever it's a team that doesn't have the stronger conference, there will always be something that someone will say, oh, well, you know, this happened or that happened or how come this or how come that. They got 12 losses, bro. You gotta, you know, the same way you celebrated on any other team in the West, you gotta give them their respect on the East too. Because there's only 12 losses. We ain't talking about 20.
Yeah.
This is another thing too that people, when it comes to East versus West, and nobody really considers, like the Lakers and the Clippers. You see all season, they have their eye on one another. They literally building their team to match up with him. Lakers is going out and getting this player to match up with the Clippers, and vice versa. You know, so when it comes, because you have to see them 4 times, you know, and then like out east, Philadelphia, they went and they got Al Horford over the summer to have length on their front line to match up with Giannis specifically because he's like the biggest threat. You know, and like Miami, the way they built their team is specific to like how the East is, you know. So I feel like Milwaukee being able to dominate either coast, like that's even more impressive, you know. Like they can dominate either coast of the NBA. You can't win damn near 70 games without dominating the entire league, you know. Like you're dominating, bro. Like that's pretty tough. That's pretty hard to do.
So just to wrap this up, I'm gonna go to everybody and just give who they think the MVP should be, just to put a nice little bow on it. So Aaron, who's your MVP?
All right, so still sticking with Giannis.
Okay, Matt.
We're going Kawhi, man.
This guy.
I told you. What you got? What you drinking, man? What you drinking some Henny over there? Always.
All right. So Steve, who you got?
I got Giannis.
All right, Kyle, you sticking with LeBron?
I still got LeBron.
All right, so Giannis wins it because I'm going with Giannis.
4-1.
Well, 3-1-1 because this guy.
Oh, that's right. Just Kawhi.
All right, so on to topic number 2. This one is interesting to me. If it wasn't for injury, who would have had the better career? Brandon Roy or Penny Hardaway? I'm gonna start with Matt this time. Who you got?
That's so tough, bro. That is so tough. Damn, bro. I thought a lot about this, man. I think I'm gonna go Roy, man. Penny was cold. And the thing about it is a lot of things around it, right? So if Penny's healthy, does that mean Shaq stays? Shaq goes? Because if you think about it, Shaq left before he really got hurt. Like the way he was like really, really getting hurt, Shaq was already gone. Like Shaq didn't leave because Penny was injury prone. He left because he wasn't getting paid from Orlando. So you tell me that Shaq still leaves and goes to LA. So now you got Penny on Orlando, like that's his team. Moving forward in the East at that time, stayed healthy. You have making the playoffs pretty much every year. He was there. He was like a perennial all-star. Of course, we know. I gotta go with because when you're a point guard, you know, with Penny, he was a point guard, that first player. It's also reliant on like who you have around you, bro. Like if you a great point guard, but you got trash, only set up for success by those around you. Where Brandon Roy on Portland, you know, they were like a good consistent team over the last decade or so. So I think he would have had he was more explosive, you know, in his healthy years. So I go with Roy because of that. I think his ceiling is a little bit higher than Penny actually.
Okay. Aaron, who you got?
On who would have had the better career, I'd say it's Brandon Roy would have had the better career, in my opinion. It's real close though. I feel like in terms of talent level and ceiling, both players in the same realm. You can split hairs and argue who, you know what I'm saying, was really better than who, but it's not like this wide margin between the two, at least, you know what I'm saying, from my vantage point. The only reason I actually say Roy would have had a better career is because I feel like neither one of them would have won any championships or anything like that just because of the squads that they were on. And so, like, I don't think either one of them would have had the accolades. But what does separate them is the money. And over the course of their careers, Penny made $120 million for 14 years, or you know what I'm saying, worth of contracts. And Brandon made $82 million for 9 years worth of, you know, contracts. Now, obviously, if Roy isn't completely decimated, because we know Penny was at least able to stick around and get that Knicks retirement package, you know what I'm saying, like, and stuff like that at the end that boosted up his salary. Because they don't even, Penny started in an era where players wasn't even making as much money, but ended up making $40 million more over the course of the career, just due to him being able to tough it out. So, you know, if anything, if Roy stuck around, he would at least, you know what I'm saying, the money conversation, which is why we do things anyway, you know what I'm saying, Roy would have won, but because of the injuries, you know, Penny got him by far. So, yeah, I say it would have been Roy. He got hurt the most by the injuries.
Okay. Steve.
I'm gonna go with Penny. I'm gonna go with Penny Hardaway for the simple fact that he was a better all-around player. To me, he did more on the court than a Brandon Roy. Brandon Roy was more, he was a dog. You give him the ball and go get buckets. A real Ben Gordon kind of guy, you know, that's all he really did. You know what I'm saying? He didn't average high on assists or rebounds. He wasn't that kind of guy. He was the guy to get you buckets. Now, when you look at the stats, if you wanted to, he didn't shoot all that great either. Talking about Brandon Roy on any given year, when you compare all of their seasons, comprising all their seasons together. Not only that, Anthony Hardaway, he won a gold medal. He was a part of that. You know what I'm saying? I can't ignore that. He's a gold medalist. So when you have that, not to mention he made all-star games. You know, you don't make an all-star game, you know what I'm saying, just by doing bare minimum, especially in the East. And you also got to remember, the East ran shit back in the 90s. So let's not forget that. You know what I'm saying? He's playing. If anybody want to say, oh, well, the West is better or the East is better, if we want to do the conference thing, well, Penny played it on the conference. And I think we said, me and Aaron had agreed upon this in the chat, where playing with another great player is easy. It's actually not. It's harder when you have a certain, someone looks at you and say, oh, I need this from you every night in order for us to win, and you don't come up with that. Not only is it either the player that's better than you or right underneath you looking at you like what's going on, but the rest of the 15 guys behind you and the coach are like, what's going on with you? I think John Starks had that moment where he was killing and then he just disappeared. You know, stuff like this happened. Now, for me, Anthony Hardaway was more consistent. And I know that for both of these guys, they didn't play long, but what you know, from the measuring stick that we have, I think Anthony was a lot more consistent. He did more in the short time that he had versus what Brandon Roy did, especially with Anthony being in the East, where there was so much competition. I mean, guaranteed you got Jordan and Pippen coming out of the East for an all-star game. Guaranteed. That's 2 spots taken up right there. You know what I'm saying? And Anthony was kind of that big guard too. So, you know, just based on that, and that's not even all numbers, you know, I think I would go on Anthony Hardaway. I think he meant more for them winning than Brandon Roy. Because I didn't look at their record, Portland, but I think they made the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? So they had to have somewhat of a winning record. You know what I mean? But I just didn't look at how many times they did.
Okay. And Kyle, just finish it up. Who you have?
I'd have Brandon Roy. Now, personally, when it comes to Penny Hardaway, I haven't gotten a chance to fully really watch Penny like that. Throughout my time of watching basketball like that, because I was more so focused on Shaq at the time. So, you know, I was still young. So I only knew about Shaq. But when it comes to because I was looking at the numbers and I was just kind of reiterating, refamiliarizing myself with them again. And it's crazy because Brandon Roy's only played for 6 years, and he only played 5 consecutive because, you know, he retired that little stint and came back for the little 12 games or whatever. But in his first 5 years, in his first 6 years, their numbers are exactly the same. They're almost identical. And Penny averaged 19. It was like 19-7, 19-7 assists and like 5 rebounds, where Brandon Roy's was 19-5 assists and like 4.5, like 4 rebounds. So it was like, and both of them in the time of their career, both shot about 45% from the field. So both of them weren't that well, didn't really shoot that well.
Yeah.
Penny Hardaway had 3 All-Star selections. No, Penny Hardaway had 3 All-Star selections. Brandon Roy had 2, or is it 4 and 2? I think it was. No, sorry. Yeah, it was 3 and 2.
3 and 2.
Right, 3 and 2. Yeah. So, and then they both had all NBA selections. So, and both 2 and 3 in that regard. So, from the eye test perspective, I know Penny definitely had the popularity behind him, 1,000%. And as far as the Shaq thing goes, I definitely, he wasn't gonna stay. It was almost not like that. That was a whole management issue, even beforehand. If he does stay, if the management doesn't get in the way and all that other stuff, and they actually gave Shaq his money, then Penny and Penny, and in essence, Penny doesn't get hurt because obviously Penny's not working that hard. So, I mean, I would still say Brandon Roy due to the simple fact that he was given more so the opportunity to score more and also to bring more of the, I guess, the flair back. And I just think Penny was gonna. I think it's gonna be that way anyway because I feel like Shaq was gonna leave. But that's also from what I do know now. So I can't really speak too much on Penny.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's a lot of good points that all four of you made. And to be honest,
Steve, I had one other point I meant to mention.
Yeah, go ahead.
That Penny was a better defender.
Yes.
He was a way better defender, and I mean, he gave Jordan hell at times. Although giving Jordan hell still ain't really doing much, right? Because he killed everybody. But you know, that's actually where Penny got where he really started to climb that ladder of success because of what he was able to do against Jordan and the Bulls at different points. Obviously not, you know, all the time. You gonna have your good and your bad game. He had way more good games than bad games. So, but that was the other point. Just he was a better defender. He averaged more steals too. So, but yeah, I think it's Matt's turn.
Yeah, you actually started to speak on the point I was gonna make. It was Penny grew up in, I guess, for at least a good 1 or 2 seasons, there was a legit argument as to who was the better player, Jordan or Penny. I mean, like, we all know Jordan was the better player, but he was there to be like, he's the other guy, you know? The same way they look at Kobe now, like Kobe, if there was somebody to compare Jordan to or to argue was Kobe, they were doing that with Penny during the late 90s. I think personally that, all right, so the better player, if it wasn't for injury, would be Penny, in my opinion, because they were basically doing the same thing, but to Steve's point, he was a better defender. He's 6'6", and he was asked to do a lot after Shaq left, and he answered the call if it were up until the injury. The person who would have had the better career, in my opinion, would have been Brandon Roy. So, like, I think Penny would have been the better player when it's all said and done. But taking into consideration, if nothing changes, Brandon Roy at that time would have been playing with Damian Lillard and LaMarcus Aldridge.
Question.
That would have been formidable.
I got a question about that. Do you think they keep Brandon Roy if Damian Lillard and all these other guys come? Or do they trade a pick and get, you know what I mean? Like, does that actually happen and become something?
I don't think they actually drafted Damian Lillard. That's the case.
They had already drafted him.
No, I know, but that's like we all know when we got somebody who we may be trying to move. Like a lot of teams, they do that. They let that guy play, raise his stock, and then they use on his trade bait for somebody else because you got another guy who's ball dominant like Lillard. They both ball dominant, especially back then. I mean, who do you keep both of them? How?
Yeah, I mean,
I think you have a good 4. My fault. I think you have a good 4 years or 3 or 4 years of that nucleus of Aldridge, Roy, and Lillard, because Lillard's coming in on the rookie deal. He would have learned a lot quicker than what he did learn.
So then here's my other question then. If that's the case, then does Brandon Roy get less touches?
My fault. Brandon Roy does what?
I said, does Brandon Roy, if that's the case, and you got Lillard, you saying he's a quick learner, he gets in there quick on the offense, then you got Aldridge, wouldn't that mean that Brandon Roy would get less touches, which means his stats go down, so he become less of the man? Because now you got a third guy who's ball dominant, meaning Lillard.
Yeah, and that's why I said I feel Penny at the end of the day would be the better player, but Roy would have had the better career. Roy would have had the titles. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
He would have had the titles. He would have had the more playoff experience.
Okay, gotcha.
Marion, my fault, Matt. Before you say, I think Aaron was trying to say something first.
Oh no. I'm just saying real quick. I mean, we have seen players drafted at same position, even though someone was there like Monta Ellis and Steph. You know what I'm saying? People almost forget that Monta Ellis and Steph actually played together, and then they kind
Yeah,
of got Ellis to
rid of
stop up, got
Monte.
rid of him to Milwaukee.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
they do it all.
So
No, I
yeah,
know they do it all the
Yeah.
time, but that's why I was saying to Keith, like, could that have been that moment where we're getting Lillard because we want to get rid of Roy because Roy, he's a good player, but we don't think he fits what we're trying to do. You
yeah,
know
it
what
could
I'm
have
saying?
possibly
That kind of thing. Kind of like what Monte
been
you said
that.
to Monte
Yeah.
Ellis, which is a
But
very
I
good
don't
example.
think I don't think they draft Damian Lillard.
No, they
But
drafted him
they
already.
drafted him while he was playing.
How?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks to me, it looks like he wasn't even on the team. When was Damian Lillard drafted? Like 2013?
2011, but it was
Yeah, that's what I'm
11, but
thinking.
it was the year. It was the year that Roy was hurt.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I
he
think
was.
they draft. What I'm saying is, if he wasn't hurt, I don't think
I'm
they have that position to draft Damian Lillard.
no,
That's
Yeah,
because
what
but
I'm
it
saying.
was a
If
trade.
Roy is
They had the pick in the trade. They had traded with the Nets for Crash. Remember, the Nets was going mad hard to try to
Right.
compete, and they got Crash, and then they got older veterans like what you call it, Paul Pierce and whatnot. So they actually traded Crash for the Nets draft pick, and that's what put them in position to get Lillard.
But I'm
That was a
saying,
what
Nets
year was
draft pick.
Lillard drafted?
but would you? I'm just saying, are they still drafting him if you have a healthy Brandon Roy?
Well, that's
That's
my
the point
point. I'm
making.
saying like
Huh?
I'm saying the way my argument
Yeah.
was is if nothing changes, right? But you have a healthy Brandon Roy. That's who he's playing with. He's not playing. He's not hurt. He's still playing with Lillard. He's still playing with Aldridge. I'm just saying. I'm not saying it as like
Another
not saying it as in like butterfly effect. Now that is a whole different thing. I'm just saying it as in like you keep everything the way it
plug
was,
him in.
but you have a healthy Roy. That's different from. I mean, I guess you could say the same thing for Orlando because you keep a healthy Penny, and now you got McGrady playing with them. You got Dwight Howard.
Exactly.
So
But we don't know if that's the thing though, because of the fact that like we assumed that with Penny they would have a better record. We don't know whatever the McGrady thing, yeah, him coming over. But in terms of like drafting Dwight Howard, we don't know that. We do know that the Blazers would have been able to draft Lillard because they acquired that draft pick via trade.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like that kind
right.
of
They could have played together if he didn't continue to be injured. And actually, I think the year if he was drafted in 11, that's when Brandon Roy was still there. He took a year off and then came back for the 12 and 13 season.
so I was looking it up. He was actually drafted after the year that Roy took off.
Right.
Yeah.
I was saying like that. I don't think that happened personally, but I think the year before that was Kyrie Irving. That was when Kyrie Irving got drafted number 1.
Right, but that's why I asked the question: does Brandon Roy stay there with Lillard
Coming in, injury and that, based on,
what he's been doing?
at the level he's been doing it at. And there's a lot of times where professionals
See things that we don't see, and they may not ever talk about it unless you know them, speak to them, what happened, front office stuff. There's a lot of stuff when they move players around, and we don't know why, and then later on it comes out like, oh, this is why.
But to think about it, to piggyback on your point, they probably would. To be honest, they probably would still play together because even it's funny. The Blazers drafted not soon after it was C.J. McCollum, which was whose draft comparison was Damian Lillard. So it was kind of funny to have the same guy in the backcourt together.
Yeah, but one guy's not. But neither one of them was hurt. We're
Well,
talking
no,
Brandon Roy. He's not the
like
same player. So you're like, yeah, you could do something, but your injury is holding you back. So we're gonna let you rock, get your stock up, trade you. That's why I asked that question, based on what we know to be true.
Okay.
I'm just thinking reverse that they looking to get rid of him because of that injury to get something for him, and they know he ain't gonna do nothing but be injury prone.
I mean, the one thing is sometimes
Hold
with
on,
teams.
Aaron, hold on. Let Matt get
All
it. Let
my
Matt get
bad.
it.
See, Matt, it's when you start
That's
eating
cool.
this shit.
When Brandon Roy was playing in the West was crazy back then too. Steve earlier had said like East was wild, with Penny, with the Bulls and whatever. Mind you, the West, that was like what, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009. Bro, the West was crazy back then too. Bro. You had Kobe and the Lakers. I remember Kobe had said like after himself and D Wade, Brandon Roy was the next best shooting guard in the league.
Who said that?
Like at that point in time. And he's like, Brandon Roy had no weakness in his game. Like he could go right, he could go left, he could finish it, go either direction. He could finish at the basket, he could shoot, pull up, like everything. You still have Phoenix. Phoenix still has Steve Nash and Amari back then. They were still like at the top. You still had Dallas. Dallas went to the finals in 2006. They was always one of the top teams. The Spurs, that motherfuckers never go nowhere. Like the West was fucking a doghouse, bro. Like even the Hornets, the Chris Paul Hornets back then, like that team was a threat. Finishing like top 3. Chris Paul was in MVP conversations with like Chandler and David West and shit. So the West was tough too back then. Like the West was I'm not gonna say it was probably just as tough as the East was in the 90s. Like East ran shit, but at that time the West was killing shit, bro. I see a bunch of MVPs on that Roy was competing with on a nightly basis, earning his name like night in and night out. You got to guard Kobe today, then you got to go guard T-Mac and this nigga. Like that shit is stressful, bro.
There you go. So now we're gonna So Matt, who do you have? You have Roy?
Yeah, I think Roy.
All right, Aaron, you have Roy?
Yeah.
Steve, you have Penny still?
Mm-hmm.
And Kyle, who do you have?
I have Brandon Roy.
Okay. And I'm gonna go Penny. I think Penny is a better player overall, if without injury, but I think Roy has a better career if it wasn't for injury.
Wait, so then you're going with Roy then? Because the question is who would have had
No,
a better
well,
career?
Yeah.
All right. So for this last topic, I know as of this recording, The Last Dance is set to come on at 9 p.m. on ESPN. So in honor of that, this question is: we know Jordan is the better player, right? Who's the better in-game dunker, Jordan or Pippen?
Jordan.
Who?
Pippen got some bodies, man. Pippen got some bodies, man. Especially that Ewing shit, man. That shit is good. But Jordan, I think Jordan caught Ewing too. Or that baseline fake comeback. I think that was that one.
Yeah.
But damn, that Pippen shit was nasty, man. In-game dunker. Shit. Out of them two, yeah. I think Jordan, because Jordan used to do the rock the cradle shit. He used to do the cuffing the ball, coming backwards with it. He did a lot of little fancy shit off of that little block. And it was like almost like it was almost like a vertical type of jump. And then he would do like what's that shit, the windmill off of a vertical, but not straight up, but kind of coming on an angle, if that even makes sense. But I would give it to Jordan over Pip. Pip wasn't as athletic, but he was athletic.
Bro, Pippen was seeking bodies, bro. He was looking for that contact in the air, bro. That's like, I like that more. Like personally, I like that more when you dunk. Like Jordan could kind of was going up and over you because you can't jump as high as him. Well, Pippen is like, nah, catch this work, boom, and I'm throwing it on you. Like, personally, like, I like that better. You know, like.
I mean, Jordan got bodies too. I mean, that was just Ewing was just a body I counted. I mean, I think he did he do it to Mutombo when somebody said something to him in the crowd? He was like, dunk on somebody bigger. Nigga
That was
changed.
Tree
He
Rollins.
said, that big enough? Who was
Nah,
that?
that was Tree Rollins.
Yeah, that was in Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, because he was always talking about how he dunking on little guys, and then, he started dunking, I'm just saying. He got a lot of bodies too.
I'll go with Jordan.
A lot. I think I'll go with Jordan too. Now, I'll go with Pippen. But because I feel like Jordan went more like up and around people more. Because like Steve said, he's more like in the air. He's more athletic. So it's like this nigga's floating. Like that shit wasn't fair. You know, like it's like he's floating in the air. So you
Like
jump
the 6
this way.
man, like the 6 man was carrying him.
Yeah, what is this nigga on, bro? Like he's going around you while you coming down, he's still dunking the ball. Well, Pippen was going up, seeking the contact first.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna meet in the air, body to body, and I'm gonna still throw it down. Like personally, I enjoy those dunk-ons more than when you just going up and around somebody because you're just more athletic than everybody that ever lived. Like.
You want to add in, Aaron?
Oh, yeah, I didn't know if Kyle had went yet. You know what I'm saying?
Oh no, I just said Jordan because it's just. I'm thinking when I think in-game dunk, I'm thinking this like the whole thing, not just
Right.
body seeking, And don't get me wrong, it is very exciting, but to see, Jordan, like you said, rock the cradle on somebody or take off from like just inside the dotted line where he's looking in the basket, like that. That's also very impressive. So I mean, I think there's more. I think he had more of those than Scottie Pippen did, and even though Scottie Pippen is very impressive to watch as far as dunking goes, So
Yeah, I mean, I take Mike. Like, I know we had so many Chris Brown fans with the body to body. Like,
I had to hold myself back. I was gonna say something like,
but nah, some real tip. Like Mike got those too. Like Steve mentioned earlier with the Mutombo and whatnot. And this is when Mutombo was like,
prime,
blocking everybody. And then you figure like, yo, he was doing dunk contests. Dunks in like that's just wild. Like
he was
you know
doing
what I'm
stuff
saying?
that
Like,
he was
people
doing
have
stuff
a
that
hard
guys
enough
do
time.
now.
Yep.
Yeah. And like almost hit his head on the backboard. It was crazy. Like Mike, you know what I'm saying? It's something different. So I would go Mike.
Yeah, when you
Mike is my favorite player of all time. But I'm going with Scottie Pippen. Because Scottie dunked on everybody. Like, and it's not even to be honest with you, he's probably one of the most underrated players ever. But
Wait,
what?
what?
I said, to be honest with you, Scottie Pippen is probably one of the most underrated superstars ever. He doesn't get the credit he deserves for being
50. He's a 50 great. I mean, how much more credit do you get, right? You can't be Mike.
When I say underrated, I mean amongst the greats, people don't bring up Scottie Pippen's name nearly enough.
Shit, I think
Matt
I'm gonna
does.
be honest.
Matt's a big Scottie
I
Pippen
don't
fan.
think, bro. I disagree because every time we talk about Mike and the Bulls, Pippen's right there in the conversation. Always. Oh, somebody always injects him in there. It's always part of the conversation. Like everybody goes, yeah, the Bulls, man, Mike and the Bulls back in X, Y, and Z year and this year and that year, and someone always says never would have happened without Pippen, and those are all facts. You see what I'm saying? So it's like I do get what you mean though about maybe out of all of the greats, like he didn't have his own like the other greats. Because a lot of the other greats, they had their own team. They ran their own team versus Pippen, he was, Robin to Mike Batman. And to me, that's actually more impressive that you can still, like, you're not really playing in his shadow. To me, that's more impressive that you could be next to somebody like Mike and they look at you as your own man, not that you're just blank man and the other guy, Nah, like he actually held his own and people know his name. His name rings bells. And y'all voting for him to have more bodies.
Yo, he definitely, in my opinion, he definitely does though. Like,
you know what?
Like and it's not even something that they'll show in a highlight. Like you watch a game and you'll just randomly see Pippen dunk on Barkley or dunk on Malone or dunk on
real casual about it, right? Like, yeah, I do this shit. Yeah.
It was Davis, the Davis boys on Indiana, Antonio Davis, Del Davis back in the day.
Yeah.
Them motherfuckers was hockey too. Bro, Pippen was going down there like, where y'all niggas at? Yeah, like that's the shit right there, bro. Like, yo, and they don't put that shit in the highlights. It's like I be just watching the game. I'm like, yo, he just tried that shit. He's trying to dunk on fucking Oakley, and Oakley didn't. He put anybody in the stands, bro. He didn't give a fuck. So like that shit, I like that shit, bro. I like that shit a lot. Like Mike, of course, everybody knows Mike. Nigga is a fucking cheat code. Yeah, Pippen, bro. I like that shit.
So I think the question should change then. That's the
right,
case.
Exactly. I was just about to say because he was in-game dunker.
In-game dunker is almost
Right.
it's not up for question. It wouldn't be up for debate. Everybody knows Michael Jordan how great he is as an in-game dunker. So it kind of wouldn't be fair. But I mean, if you would change it, like who has a lot of great posters or something like that, or
no, but all that counts in game.
Right, exactly. That's all in game.
Everything is in. No, it's not just about dunking on someone or doing a windmill, rock the cradle. All that is in game. That's everything.
Right.
Yeah, I just feel like there's a little bit more involved.
Kyle, that's just the perspective. That's the perspective that they're looking at it from. To them, that's more impressive where it overshadows the other stuff that Mike is doing by himself or, going underneath someone and dunking it. I mean, to me, in game, there's not a great separation between Pippen and Mike in terms of the body counts that they have. Because Mike got some bodies too. So those are close in numbers. Sure. Pippen probably got more, and that's without just on surface. I would give Pippen that, but overall, nah, Mike, to me, he's done more than just that, where Pippen only did that.
You know why I think so too? Because I think if you were big man and you see Scotty coming down the middle, you might jump thinking you actually could block it, just because it's not Mike. Whereas when it's Mike coming down, a lot of times they were like, I'm not jumping with this nigga, like I'm not jumping with him. Like you could go, you could have that, but Pippen, I think some of the bigs were more inclined, like, nah, I'm gonna challenge him, and it was a bad decision, just like it would be a bad decision to jump on Mike. So like a lot of those posters were like very disrespectful because they like Ewing, he really thought he was blocking that shot, bro. He really thought he was blocking that dunk.
I mean, like, 7 feet, wouldn't you? If I'm 7 feet, you know what I'm saying? That's like my son running in here talking about he gonna come dunk over me. Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
I'm gonna put him on his back.
Yo, what you call the one thing I would say though, like, is I think when we're talking about degree of difficulty, and don't get me wrong, it's not easy to dunk on someone, but there's a reason why, like, we don't see dunk-ons in a dunk contest, because people's just gonna look at it as, yeah, it's difficult to dunk on someone, but in terms of the actual dunk itself, you know what I'm saying, to pull it off.
The degree of difficulty is different.
Mm-hmm. And so, like, Mike is doing stuff in game that some dudes need multiple attempts in a dunk contest to complete with no defense or whatever.
I think it's harder to dunk on a 7-footer than to rock the cradle on a fast break. When you by yourself,
But people in the dunk contest be needing multiple attempts
But here's
on
the
certain
thing.
dunks.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing
And there's
about.
no defense.
Nate, my height, bro. Nate,
Let me
yeah,
hey,
Nate
let me
Robinson, height.
let me ask you a question, Matt. What's the risk reward that you get for Pippen, or not Pippen, just anybody dunking on a 7-footer? The reward is high because you get, oh, look what you did. But the risk is nothing, because if you get your shot blocked, what we're going to say, well, he's a 7-footer. He's supposed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Versus you got somebody like Mike trying to do, somebody catching a Sprite in the middle of a game. You know what I'm saying? It's a high reward, but the risk is very high as well. Because if you miss that dunk, if you slip, if you did do this, because back in the day, I don't know if anybody remember, they had a whole segment called bloopers. You know what I'm saying? And you did not want to go on the blooper. That was kind of like what Shaq, that was Shaq's version of blooper. Shaq the Fool is, right, that's his version of bloopers. And bloopers is not where you wanted to be back in the 90s, bro. You just didn't. So the high risk, high reward, I think is different when you're in-game dunking and doing something fancy. Everything has to be right. The measurement, the height, the jumping ability, you got to hold that ball right. All of that plays a role, as opposed to like what Aaron was saying. It's not very hard to dunk on a 7-footer. All you need him to do is misunderstand where that ball is at, and he's getting dunked on. Because people like Pippen and Mike, they got the strength to dunk on anybody. So it's just a matter of, can the 7-footer.
Mike has the highest vert ever in league history.
And they shouldn't jump. Right? They should have looked at, they should have talked to you first. Like, yo, Mike, don't do that.
He got the highest vert. He got the highest vert. So why the fuck am I jumping with this nigga, bro? Like
Good question.
Look, I think everybody gets that question, man. After something happened to them, like, man, why did I do that, man?
Right. All right, so just to wrap everything up, Kyle, who are you going with, Jordan or Pippen, for a better in-game dunker?
I'm going with Michael Jordan.
All right, Steve.
Jordan.
Aaron.
Mike.
Matt.
Ron Harper.
Matt, you got Jordan or Pippen?
Matt fell off the wagon.
I got Pippen.
All right, and I'm going Pippen too. So Jordan has that 1-3-2. Well, guys, this is the first installment of the Locker Room. I want to thank you guys for taking time out to join me and to start this. Be on the lookout. We got more topics. We got more debates. We got more discussions, possibly more arguments. And, we'll be back.